afternoon and welcome to Not Minding My Own Business. I am your host, Russell Farbiers, your estate planning and elder law attorney. And I am joined here again by Dave Mattis of Remax of Reading. Welcome back, Dave.
Howdy, Russ. I'm happy to be here. How you doing?
Good, good. So some of our listeners may remember Dave was on probably in the early months of the show. So God, it's got to be at least 2 years since you've been on.
That would
Um,
be my guess. Yep.
and I thought it would be nice to sort of have Dave come back and talk about some things that are, I don't want to say changing, but but sort of moving forward in his practice. Before we jump in, Dave, why don't you just introduce yourself to some of our listeners who may not be as familiar with you?
Very good. Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah. So Dave Mattis is the name. I have a real estate team at the local. When I say local, I mean local to Wyomissing Spring Township, Pennsylvania, of called Remax of Reading, and it's one of the not one of it's the top real estate office around. But then I have a great team of six agents, including myself and my wife, and then we have two full time assistants and a couple of interns. So I've been doing this since 1995. Did take a break in the middle to do mortgage lending for about 5 years, so that was a really good kind of addition, to the whole whatever process that I follow. And then, I mean, Mel is kind of hard to believe. Mel is now licensed for 10 years, and everybody else is, as the years roll on. So we're typically helping 100 to 125, 135, families, people, etc., per year with their real estate needs. Hoping our goal this year is 150. So in a strange market, I'm not sure how we'll do, but that's just to kind of give you an idea of how hard we're working out there.
Well, you must be one of the larger teams in Berks County, because that's a lot of families to help in 1 year.
It is. I don't really think that I'd have to kind of start writing down like what the other teams are. I mean, I could probably rattle off three or four of them, but I
Hmm.
don't know that there's any that are that big. My goal, as you can see, I don't know how to point to this on Zoom, but over my on the camera, what looks like my right shoulder is my word for the year is growth. I don't want to be to fall prey to the woe is me stuff with market conditions. You know what I mean? That's always been a thing, and we just want to kind of keep pushing forward.
Well, and that's the thing, is that you can't really control the market. You can only control how you react to it. Uh, but why don't we talk a little? I always find it interesting when I have Dave on, is to talk about what the market currently looks like. So, can you give us sort of a 30,000 foot view of what the market looks like?
I can indeed. So again, this will be strictly for Berks County. So we get glimpses, Russ, that we're going to be having more homes on the market, 300, or should I say 350, 400, 450, and like we maybe dabble with 340 or 350. But we're currently at 322. I do a market update every month, and we were at um, currently listed was 317. At the end of April. So kind of amazing. Pendings are still strong. Believe it or not, sales, this time, like closed sales this time versus last year, are pretty equal, but we've listed quite a few less homes. So it just kind of is indicative to say that, at the start of last year, we were in almost the exact same boat as we are this year. Interest rates, I'd say, are about, 7%, which is very good because they were much higher. I mean, yes, we want them to creep down a little bit, but we're just going to have to kind of again work with what we control.
Well, and the reality on interest rates is that you're never going to see the twos and the threes again. Uh,
Absolutely not.
so, anyone who's sort of sitting on the sidelines and waiting for twos and threes, that was a very unique scenario. I mean, the twos really, I mean, at least in recent memory, was the result of a global pandemic. You know,
Yeah.
so.
It, yeah, very much again out of our control, and like we'll just ride the wave of what the government thinks that we should do. And then now we're in the exact same boat. I saw there's a meme out there or GIF or whatever you call it, Russ, and I'm thinking maybe you've seen it by now, but it's the one where it says if you in 1973, if you waited until something like that, I'm sure I don't have the dates right, but if you waited until rates come down, it was like 20 years. You know what I mean? So you just can't sit around and wait for rates. Historically, a rate of 7 or 6.875 or 7 and 8 is a very good rate. We all have parents that have said, hey, I had a rate in the 18s and 16s and I refinanced down to 13. You just roll with it because we all need a roof over our head, and I'm going to stand by the fact that home ownership is just absolutely, the best way to go, to build wealth, build pride in our neighborhoods, and so on and so forth. So we have to just kind of, not worry about what we had, with the 4% rates, and just kind of move forward because when you're ready, you're ready.
Right. And I've seen memes that say, something along the lines of date the rate, marry the house, or something along those lines.
Marry the house, date the rate. You
Yeah.
almost, yeah, just switch.
The other way around.
Yeah, meaning, I mean, we do have like a kind of a relationship in this country with refinancing, but you know, if you get a rate that's, let's say, 7 or in the sevens or approaching 8 or whatever, there will be some point, in the life of that loan that you'll be able to, get that rate down to 6 or, something in that realm. So you just have to be patient, and it will happen. And what you'll find is that it's, you know, between the time that you got the house and the mortgage and the time that you refinanced, everything was just fine, because you're still going to work within your means. You know what I mean? You are going to
Right.
work within your budget and not, overachieve. But I will say this, Russ, I am still of a mindset, now that I've been doing this since 1995 and owning properties myself the whole time, now that some time has passed and I've seen like what, the magic of compounding with real estate can do, I'm advocating heavily just, buy the house. Let's just buy the house because it'll be 5,000 more next year, 10,000 more next year, and so on.
Well, and that's sort of a good point. Are you seeing how house prices stabilize at all, or are they still going up each year?
They're still going up. So well, this is kind of just discounts 18 and 19 because we were just, as we were rolling into the year of 2020 when the pandemic hit, we were doing real well. Market was very healthy. Um, but then once we broke free and being allowed to work, after those 2 months in May of 2020, like we've seen some major Berks County appreciation numbers, and actually nationwide, probably worldwide, truthfully. Um, 7, 8, 12%, something like that. But now we're going to kind of do the typical Berks County thing and bounce along at 2 to 4%, which is, quite healthy. Bottom line, though, answer to your question is yes, values continue to rise.
But not at the same astronomical rates that we were seeing coming out of the lockdown in 2020.
That's the correct point. Yep. Here's a great example. Since you like stats, and I know hopefully your folks do too. So our average sales price at for at the end of April statistics was 285 in Berks County, and
Pretty good.
this time last year was 264. So that's a
Yep.
7% number. So that's
Yeah,
month over year. I forget how you say that,
yeah.
but yeah. So we're doing it's doing well.
That's pretty good, especially when you think about, in the early 2010s, homes were losing value, and now they really have regained that and really appreciated beyond that.
Well beyond that. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice, for anybody that lived through that, because that was rough for a lot of people, but if you
Hmm.
were able to hang in there, Russ, you've done very, very well. Um, and there's still continues to be the talk out there about like when's it gonna stop? When's it gonna drop? And it may. I mean, real estate is cyclical. There's no question about it. But we don't give back these kind of gains. You know what I mean? Like we go up, 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 and maybe we shrink back a little bit, if something, major
Yeah.
does happen. but we don't give back these gains that like people are thinking. And foreclosures have still been very, very low.
Yeah, so I just remember, in the early 2010s working with estate clients, and it was, well, we got to sell a house and it could take 6 months. It's not the case anymore. What's the average right now?
So the average right now has kind of shrunk back a little bit, but it's still 28 days in Berks County. This time last year was 25, and I would say at the absolute peak, if I had to take a month, I can't really pick out which month it would be, but it'd probably be around 18 or 19 days on the market. Just crazy. So
That's
let's say 30 days. That's amazing still.
that really is. When I think about, any, and you're getting offers that are typically at asking price or higher, I would imagine.
We are like,
Yeah.
Josh on my team, wrote one up and he's competing with seven. I have a kind of a funky piece of land that has a couple dilapidated structures on it, and we've had a bunch of showings on it. Now we don't have anything over asking on that, but now that we have multiple offers, we're getting escalation clauses. So it's still happening. When it's not happening is when a property was overpriced maybe from the
Right.
beginning, and yeah, and then it sort of sits there and sits there and sits there, and it's kind of amazing, that phenomenon that people, consumers are like, well, what's wrong with this house, now that it's been sitting for 70 days or 30 days, and I'm going,
Right.
nothing other than, we can really clearly see maybe that it's overpriced. And then we're going to see some offers. If your audience knows what seller's assist is, we are seeing some, offers that, where the seller is helping the buyer with some of their closing costs. So it's a nice opportunity for the buyer that needs that.
Sure. So now, Dave, I know in recently you've started been moving into the senior market. So can you tell my listeners a little bit about what you've done, to improve your real estate practice with the senior market.
I'll be happy to do that. Yeah. So I've been doing this again since 95. I think it's, if you take out the mortgage piece, it's probably 25 years of experience. And the business I do with you typically, Russell, is in this realm as well. Either it's going to be an estate, or maybe it's a senior that's ready to downsize and make a pretty big move. So what I found was that I was already doing like a really good chunk of business in this realm. And when you talk about the senior realm, these days, is it over 55? I don't know. It's probably
We
a
got
little bit older.
we got to be careful because we don't want to put you in the senior category, do we?
I'm already there. I'm already there. We're not going to talk numbers here. We're not going to. I'm already there, buddy.
That's one
Uh,
statistic we don't want to get into.
yeah, let's put it this way. I mean, I can live in an over 55 community. That's all I'll say, and that's being kind, actually. Um, but the cool thing about the way we do business, and again, I think this is something you appreciate because you also do business this way, is that you have resources for people. You have, painters, mortgage people, trash out folks, movers, carpet people, cleaners, pest, just on and on and on. Landscape's a big one, because we want to get the outside looking clean. So yeah, we have these resources that, this senior population really can use. I mean, how hard it is. Even if you know somebody that does something, it's still hard to get people to call you back. Okay. And
Mhm.
if imagine if you're in that space where you don't know a painter, a landscaper, etc., you could call five of them till one of them calls you back. It's astounding. I don't understand it. The beauty of our list, I mean, it's available online. Plus, we have a printed booklet that we try to get in as many people's hands as possible, and it's hard to keep it updated because there's always changes. But it's just a
Yeah.
tremendous book of resources. So our job, I literally was just talking to somebody that moved to one of the local communities, senior community, and we're in the midst of kind of working through, okay, what are we going to do with all this stuff. So it's a realm of the market that it requires tremendous patience. um, you could be talking to somebody that, has not moved for 30 or 40 or 45 years, talking to somebody that was, is retired for many, many years, but, was a professional and had very strong opinions, about the way things work, so it just requires a lot of patience. And Mel has her senior real estate specialist. I'm doing much more with it, in that kind of going out into the world, locally here, and meeting as many people that service, the senior market. So yeah, really, I'm enjoying it, and it's something I was already doing, but it I think is a great fit for our team.
Yeah, yeah, and it's definitely you have to have some empathy and compassion and understanding when you're working with this market because sometimes they don't want to move, but it's what's the next right step for them.
Yep.
Now, have you had any interactions with any of the senior move companies we have in Berks County? Because I feel like there's more and more specialty moving services that help seniors.
So the answer is yes. The one that I was just talking to is using one of those companies, through the process, and then they're going to kind of do a handoff to me, for like a final cleaning and a final clean out. And then there's another one. I don't know if you want me to mention names of the two that I'm aware of, but there's another one, and they again do everything. They help people pack. They do attempt very, well, to sell some things. They will donate as much as they can. They
Mhm.
will unpack you once you're there. They will get your beds. It's really, really, impressive. And the other thing that I'll say, Russell, is that everybody always wants to know the price of stuff. Um, you know, I couldn't help myself but to say, well, how much does it cost to do this? And I think the amount for like the full service was like $3,000 to $5,000. And to me, I thought that was money well spent, like all day long, for this amount of stress that it took off of
Mhm.
off of you as the, person that may be reluctant, to move from your family home.
When you think about it, a traditional move service is probably not that that much less expensive,
Right.
because there's a lot of work that has to go into in into moving items that and then having someone who can pack it for you. I'm sure as a realtor, you love when these folks are involved because it takes a lot of the stress off of you too.
It does. It does. I mean, one of the things that we run into quite a bit is that people don't have everything out of their house that they needed to or off of the property. Well, when you have one of these moving companies or senior moving, specialists, they know darn well like how this works. Like the place needs to be empty at some, by in time for closing, not in time to list the house, but definitely in time, for the closing. So it kind of helps us avoid that. And no matter how hard we try, like we created an email and a, PDF flyer that we send out to people. It's like, hey, your closing's coming up. Make sure, you take care of this, no
Mhm.
matter how hard we try to do that. In the midst of all those emails, people just, sort of shut down and stop opening them.
Well,
So
some of that is the head in the ostrich effect, the head in the sand. I don't want to deal with this. I mean, other than that, I mean, what are the unique challenges that you see when you're working with a senior community?
well, unique challenges. The biggest one is that people just don't want to do it. And I will say this to anybody that's thinking about it or listening to this, or is a candidate themselves, or is a child of someone that should be doing it. What I've discovered so far is that by and large, people are very happy with the fact that they finally made the move. Oh, I should have done it sooner, is what I hear, more often. Um, so that's really the biggest challenge. And then after that, Russ, it's literally a lifetime of stuff
Right.
that they have to, sort through. And that's where those senior move companies come in, because they, believe it or not, spend time with you
Mhm.
trying, now they have to be methodical about it and try to keep you moving along, but they absolutely spend time specifically saying, what do you want to keep and what do you want, to leave, knowing how much, even maybe having a drawing, a diagram of the floor plan of where you're moving, you know?
Well, because a lot of times it's going from maybe a 4 or 5 bedroom house to an apartment that maybe has 1 or 2 bedrooms. So
Right.
you're not going to get everything from the house into the into the apartment or into the whatever. If you're going to a continuing care community or an assisted living, you're just not going to get all that stuff in.
No, no. And listen, that's tough. I
Yeah.
for whatever reason in this country, we are, you know, trained to, have the most amount of stuff. I mean, it is, and we do meet some people that are amazing with how clean their homes are and how streamlined their lives are, removing things as they go. But by and large, the much bigger percentage is everybody just keeps everything because they might need it someday, and I'm guilty as well.
We're all guilty of that. I'm going to keep this because one day it's going to come in useful, and by and large, our society has gone from a saving society to a disposable society where things are for better or worse meant to be disposable, but if we keep them all the time, then it makes it that much harder when you have to move.
Exactly. And just to just speak to that, where that really comes into play is, okay, at one time, like the collectible market for this or that, let's
Mhm.
just use Hummels, for example, was,
It's
oh
what
my
came to my
gosh,
mind.
Hummels, why is it Hummels? And they are really cool. Don't get me wrong. I've had
Yeah.
some in my family as well, but like, you just don't get anything for them. So, it's the same thing with furniture in general.
Mhm.
Uh, Granted, I can't tell you how much used furniture that I've used with myself and my family over my lifetime, but a lot of young people aren't considering that. So it's just not worth, what it may have been at one time.
Yeah, and we see this all the time when we're settling estates, is that we now have a house full of furniture that it's not that nobody wants it, but that they don't have room for it, and we end up having public auctions and selling couches for $15 or $25 a pop.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's always furniture. I think it's similar to cars. They depreciate rapidly once you take them off the lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there, how to convey that,
Yeah,
there is some sort of a detachment process that does have to
right.
take place, where you need to, kind of let go a little bit, a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Dave, I really appreciate you coming back and sort of giving us, an update on what's going on with you and, how you're working now more with the senior population. Uh, what is the best way to work with you if someone is looking to sell a house or buy a house? What's the best way to connect with you?
Well, it's pretty easy if you Google whatever you use for a search, just Dave Mattis. I will come right up. We've been doing this long enough now that we come up, pretty close to the top. Very, very easy to find. Office number is 610-670-2770. Of course, we live with our cell phones, which is 610-334-0294. We have a Dave Mattis Remax Facebook page. And for those that are on, LinkedIn, um, Twitter, and we do try to do some TikTok as well, because it's just so much fun. But you really can't miss us. So, we don't have billboards. We don't do much advertising. We just try to do as much as we can with word of mouth and referral. Which is something I admire about you and your team, and how much you seem to be actively growing your practice as well. So we're out there for sure.
Well, thank you. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on and giving us the update. So thanks, Dave.
Anytime, Russ. If you want to mark it down for 2 years again or sometime sooner, I'm sure I'll have plenty to talk about. And if anybody wants, statistics for their market, their neighborhood, their house, if you want a market update, market valuation, that's a nice piece of the puzzle to have if you're considering moving. I mean, we have, you know, be more than happy to spend the time doing that. There's no cost for that. So Happy to do that for anyone on your in your listening audience.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave.
All right, you got it. Thanks, Russ.